Mr. Speaker, thank you again for the opportunity to make this statement of public importance. Mr. Speaker, permit me to state upfront that I am all for responsible free speech, but I'm against the use of the coercive powers of the state to achieve that. Just like you, Mr. Speaker, and many lovers of democracy, I have been profoundly disturbed by not only the resurgence of military takeovers of democratic governments in sub-Saharan Africa, but especially by the number of discussions on and off media platforms in Ghana about how well our democracy is serving us and whether the coups in the affected African countries can be justified. Mr. Speaker, our youth unemployment rate has worsened over the years and is almost equal to the pre-independence figure of around 20%. The World Bank reports that underemployment is at around 50%. It is therefore needless to add, Mr. Speaker, that despondency and stress levels are high. These make our compatriots very vulnerable as they seek a savior, or at least hope for one. This indeed puts all of us in privileged political positions in a precarious position, and we ought to be extra mindful of our actions and inactions. When I listen to these discussions contrasting the benefits of democracies to coup regimes, Mr. Speaker, two arguments that stand uncontested yet are the freedoms, especially the freedom of expression and the right to seek redress in an impartial judicial process that our Constitution guarantees. Mr. Speaker, even though the two may not be enough to preserve our democracy, if their promotion is not linked to other needs of our society, I dare say that an encroachment of these two will leave our democracy without justification to uphold. Our nation went at great length, Mr. Speaker, to repeal the criminal libel law, and ironically, President Akufo-Addo was at the forefront of that as Ghana's Attorney General. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, in June 2021, the President said at Eliza Hotel, and I quote, "I am proud of the modest role I played in the process of the repeal of the criminal libel law. As the Attorney General who piloted the repeal through Parliament, I was also responsible for the discontinuation of the then pending prosecutions under the criminal libel law of notable Ghanaian journalists Tommy Thompson, Kofi Kumsin, and Eben Kwaku for publications against personalities of the then government," unquote. Mr. Speaker, it is therefore tragic that despite the repeal of the criminal libel law, the earned pride of a president for his role, both in opposition and later as Attorney General, and his professed choice for noisy, boisterous, sometimes querulous media over the monotonous, praise-singing, sycophantic one of yesteryears, that we are yet able to find justice for Ahmed Swale, an undercover journalist who was gunned down after his identity was compromised by, unfortunately, a member of this honorable house at a time he and his colleagues premiered their investigations into Ghana football and exposed grand corruption and collusion. Mr. Speaker, for the first time in our Fourth Republic, over 100 radio stations got shut down for what authorities say were regulatory breaches, despite a widely held perception that it was politically motivated, selective, and targeted at media that was critical of government. Mr. Speaker, as of now, I have lost count of the number of state-sponsored or state complicity in the arrest, harassment, and detention of journalists in the last couple of years. Journalists of Modern Ghana News website recounted harrowing torture they received at the hands of the national security operatives when they were arrested for their work. Mr. Umar Sanda of CTFM, David Tamakulo of WhatsApp News fame, the Upper East reporter of EIB Network, Edward Adeti, etc., have all suffered at the hands of people working in the name of the state for their news publications. Mr. Speaker, let me repeat for emphasis that I am for responsible free speech, and I prefer the use of the persuasive powers of the state to achieve it over the use of the coercive powers of state. Mr. Speaker, we must guard against the threat to the most valuable argument today used in defense of our democracy, the freedom to criticize our leaders and their conduct without fear of recrimination. Mr. Speaker, in the last couple of days, Mr. Mensah Thompson, a civil society activist with ASEPA, have had to be detained in custody for a publication he immediately retracted and apologized for after admitting his hitherto credible sources misled him on that particular issue. A broadcaster with Power FM, Ohiniba Buama Beni, was sentenced to 14 days imprisonment for publishing what is said to be false news in relation to justices of the Supreme Court in the last election petition case. A journalist with Media General, Captain Smart, has been arrested bizarrely at different times for a number of reasons recently, including pronouncements he made on the peace and security of the country on air, and what his employees believe was a deliberate setup to charge him for extortion. The Speaker, the latest, perhaps, was the arrest of Bubi Ansah of Accra FM, who was arrested after his show after 10 p.m. in the night whilst on his way home. The Speaker, let me conclude by saying that given the precarious nature of our sub-region, the growing despondency of especially our unemployed youth, and the growing questions about whether our democracy is fit for purpose, that we in political positions ought to guard against the temptation to reduce or to encroach on the channels and opportunities for venting frustrations. I am for free, responsible speech, Mr. Speaker, just as I am sure you are too. But I am against the use of coercive powers of state to guarantee it, because that in the long run isn't sustainable. Once again, I am most grateful for the opportunity to make this statement, Right Honorable Speaker.